first of many community caucuses. We're calling it Voices of the Village. We're going to be in Derrida, obviously, tonight. And then next Friday, we're heading all the way down. We're saving our gas money already. We're heading all the way down to Inalahan. And then from Inalahan, we'll just hit up everywhere. We'll probably go central after that. So, you know, just spread the word. Again, we want to bring the People's House of Guam Congress Hall out to the people so that, you know, we as your senators can find out what your concerns are and then take it back to the office and work on either legislation to address it or oversight, right? So thank you guys again for coming out. But I did want to kind of start a little something different because I know he's hardly, or when he is here, we want to take advantage of his presence and, you know, find out about all the great things that he's working on in Washington, D.C. So I would like to welcome up to the panel here, Congressman James Moylan, and thank you for coming, Congressman.
So I understand this meeting is for you, and I appreciate that the senator here had the invitation and opened it for me just to say a few words. We as well have been doing a few town halls, and I applaud the senator doing his as well. It's important from the House on Guam to the House in D.C. as well. So we've been advocating a lot of things to help our island, especially with our situation of national defense, Indo-PACOM. But more importantly, how we can help our residents here on Guam get through our daily lives. So a lot of the information that I'm provided with comes from our constituents, likewise for the senator too, and all the way up to Washington. I've been working closely. Today I had a meeting with the governor, and every time I come on out, I have a meeting with the governor too. And I like the opportunity to be present with our senators as well. So I just want you to know that we're working closely as a team with the administration, with the military, and most especially with our House of Representatives here, our Congress building, our senators too. The information that they receive, and if it's filtered up to me, if I can be of assistance, I certainly will. Some of the programs that we're working on, of course, are like the SSI. We're still pushing for that. The National Defense Authorization Act budget is upcoming. We've been working with our directors through the help of the governor to insert some measures that gives public safety, public health, a lot of additional benefits. It's all about money, really, and that's where we're assisting our government locally by putting these amendments into the National Defense Act. Some things we're helping out with the schools. I've been going around, and if you have students between 9th and 12th grade, there's an art competition where their artwork is displayed in the halls, in the tunnels of Congress, which is a distinct honor to have that throughout the entire nation. Every congressperson's artwork, one per representative, is present there. There's a place for Guam, and there's a competition ongoing. There is also the Service Academy, which we are providing the nominations for the Navy, Air Force, Army, and Merchant Marines as well. Each one has one slot, and the Congress, or myself, is able to nominate 10 persons to be into that slot. So it's up to the Service Academy of their choice if they wish to participate in that. So we're going to the schools to highly promote that because right now our nation is in great need of leadership and also fulfilling a lot of vacant positions in our service. We have a great threat, that being the Communist Party, the Communist Party of China, and in North Korea as well. The United States is heavily wanting to protect our freedom, our Constitution, and starting right here where America's Day begins. We have the greatest interest, the greatest interest and the greatest amount of money ever spent today in the nation is all here on Guam. So your voices through your senator here in the town hall meetings, and how it comes up to me is through these important town hall meetings will allow me to bring that back to Washington. Take us here, do your recommendations, funnel it all the way up as much as I can, and I'll do what I can to support our island. So thank you very much, and have a good evening. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Definitely have hit the ground running over there in the nation's capital, and we're very grateful for your time here tonight. Thank you. What's your number if people want to...
located at 330, well, it's next to Shirley's and again?
Right.
At,
So it's the Congressman, you kept Congressman Sinclair's office?
yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, and the
So-
number is 922-6673. So you're
Very
welcome
good.
there, folks. 922-6673.
671-922-6673.
Yes.
And they're right across the street from the old Staywell, the old, right, the old Algani Theater. Can't miss it. Thank you, Congressman.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thank
let's
you.
go ahead and, if you don't mind, we'll just go ahead and get it right into our sign-up sheet. Mr. Joseph Nicholas. That's it. And also, Mr. Ben Servino, you want to just come up and take a seat? Good evening, Mr. Nicholas.
Good evening, sir.
If you want to just, if you could just turn on the microphone and then state your name for the record for all of my colleagues here, so they know your name.
Okay, my name is Joseph C. Nicholas. I'm a retired fire chief. And I live right now as the, right behind Juan Guerrero Elementary School, right next to that school. I was born here, right there at the church, in 1950. Okay? So I'm a real digital person. First of all, some of the things that occurred to me was when a lot of people were throwing trash all over the road. And when I tried to report this to the police department, they referred me to the mayor's office, they referred me to the EPA. And I have a question, why? Is there somebody that can answer why?
I want to also recognize the presence of Sergeant Paul Tapao from the Guam Police Department. Thank you, Sergeant, for coming out.
I'm out there, because I've been basically, when I first got into the public safety, I was with the 12th Police Cycle back in 1971. So all the trainings in the police side, when I attended it, I have some pretty good knowledge about criminal justice. And some of those questions, the question I'm asking right now is, why is the police department at least come out and answer the complaint that I have? And probably because I called them up and told them, I said, hey, there's a person right now here at the site disposing of all this trash. And they told me to call the mayor's office and call EPA. And my question is, why do I have to do that? The police department should come out and answer the complaint. And that is a law that can be performed by the police officers to take the records and take all the information. I feel that they should do that. So I don't know whether that thing is lost. The other question that I have about
If you don't mind, Mr. Nicholas, I'd like to first address the first question.
All right.
So I know, and Sergeant Powell, if you want to come up, feel free. If not, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that they take the calls in order of priority, right? So if there's a robbery in progress or something crazy like that, they usually send an officer right away. But I think for illegal dumping, they're asking you to contact the mayor and the Guam EPA because...
Well, why the mayor? Why the mayor?
I mean, that is a good question.
Yes. Why do we have to call the mayor? Why
They have enforcement laws. I mean, power.
True.
But the police department is the first enforcement person that should come out, all right, and take all this information. Why are they not informing that? Okay, and that's just one situation. The other situation is here. It's in the States and all other countries. The police department is responsible for all highway, all roads, okay, for safety, correct? Why is it that we always see vehicles along the highway? They park there for about a week, then they start missing all their tires and all this stuff. What happened to the department where back then they used to pick up those vehicles and investigate them and or when the police officers on patrol, they stop there to make sure to find out whether there's anybody injured or anybody that's dead inside, and take all the information there and have the investigation. Who left the vehicle there and who should be responsible to remove it. But in the past, like I said, public safety back then, this is not police, this is not fire, this was put together. Public safety used to remove those vehicles and impound them, and then they follow it up and have them, the exact owner of that, to be responsible for that vehicle. So why are they doing it now?
Sergeant Paul Powell again, ladies and gentlemen. Sergeant.
Not a priority?
So, sir, to answer your first question, I cannot explain why the officer will give you that sort of remark or answer to your concern. You do have a valid concern in regards to the police response. GPD should have came out, at least came out to your side just so that we can actually annotate it, take the get any information. Simply reach out to EPA in our side of the shop or the mayor's office, and just to come out, for them to defer your complaint to the mayor's office or EPA. I feel that, like I said, I can't answer for that, but you're absolutely correct. At least get information and send an officer out there to do a cursory check. But one or two things may be going on. Either the desk watch officer is referring you to other enforcement agencies, such as the mayor's office, who have enforcement powers too, and also EPA. Because I do know that when we were experiencing a rise in illegal dumping, EPA was the regulatory agency that would be the ones to come out when a constituent or a community member is making a complaint. So that can be an explanation, but for our calls, like what the good senator had mentioned, in the event we try to prioritize. I'm not saying your complaint isn't valid, but you know the limited resources that we have, sometimes in a shift, you know, especially here at Dedado, I think, Mayor, your village alone has 70-some thousand, 75, 72,000, 45, and then Jigo, yeah. So we're looking at almost 70,000, and I'm not saying that your goal is not valid. These are some of the circumstances that may have exist, but nonetheless, if we have an officer that's available as a supervisor, I will send them just to get entertained to see what we can do in our end. And if it requires referring them to EPA or generating a simple report to EPA or the mayor's office, then that's the call of the supervisor. And your second question, the reason the vehicles that you see on the roadway is one or two things. The vehicle is either expired registration, lack of insurance, no insurance, or no driver's license, which means technically the vehicle is not supposed to be driven in the road. We don't have impoundment policies anymore. Long and gone are the days where GPD can actually call for a record and we can tow the car. So that's one of the things that's pretty much we're faced with. If a violator or the individual who is operating the vehicle may be under the influence or is placed under arrest, if nobody can tow the vehicle, we would pretty much confiscate the plates. And this is working with the Department of Revenue and Taxation. Confiscate the plates, issue a citation, effectuate an arrest, and submit the plates in to Rev and Tax. But we've been addressing that. We've been working closely with the Mayor's Council of Guam to see what we can do to remedy. DPW was also brought into the conversation about what we can do to move or impound, but I know for a fact that we're no longer allowed to impound vehicles unless it's a serious case such as a homicide or a fatality. And that's when we actually impound for further investigation.
So you're saying that you don't have that authority right now to impound the vehicle because you don't have a impound lot and you don't have the funding to remove that vehicle. So you're just having this be a traffic hazard out on the road?
Well, the officers will do that. Well, the officers will do their due diligence to make sure that it's not impeding traffic or it doesn't obscure the roadway. So if it requires us to move it, because if it's inoperable and everything, we will work with the owner of the vehicle. But if, like I said, if the registration, the insurance, or the documents for the vehicle is expired and it's indicating that the vehicle should not be on the roadway, in lieu of our impoundment, we pretty much just confiscate the license plates and submit it to Revenue Tax or DMV, Department of Motor Vehicle. So this is pretty much what our officers have been doing, and the only instances in which the Guam Police Department impounds a vehicle is if it's to further investigation or to present it as a court testimony, such as a homicide, if the vehicle was involved in a homicide, or if there's any trace evidence that needs to be retrieved from there. To preserve that, we would have to impound it. Same thing with a traffic fatality. So that's pretty much what we are.
Okay, but to answer those things, this is where the congressman can come in here to provide funding and
provide education for impound lot for the police department, because you cannot rely on the mayor for them to stage that vehicle out there, and then when they have funding, it's for them to come along and then pick it up and have it removed. The same format is what you guys can do. If once that vehicle is removed from the highway and you store it at a staging area, then you request the funding for that vehicle to be removed and disposed of. Now, that is perfect time to do this, is to request the funding for that. To get an impound lot for the police department, because that is the department's responsibility for traffic hazard. It's traffic safety, traffic hazard. And if there's a way that you can get it from the Office of Highway, funding, federal funds, then that will solve that also. And also increase the license for them to be removing it and give some of the funds to you guys to impound the vehicle, but they need to identify an impound lot, because it's an eyesore out there on the road, and it's a safety hazard to me. And I've learned that from the 12 police academies. And those old men have gone. You guys are young bucks, and it's time that you have to learn to enforce all the laws and all your power given to you as a police officer, or officer, to provide that service to the community. And going back to the trash, I informed the dispatcher that the individual is right here in prison.
Did you call the desk?
Yes, and then they referred me. Okay, I called 911. They referred me to Northern Precinct. Northern Precinct told me that they said, well, that's the job of the mayor. I said, wait a minute, I'm filing a complaint. Can you answer my complaint? He said, no, it's EPA's responsibility and the mayor. And I think that needs to be educated back to your officers to perform your job first and respond to and answer the call. I've received also several times that I called, they never responded.
Did you, by chance, take the name of the desk watch duty officer?
I mean, there's got to be some kind of responsibility for the police officer to come out and address that, at least answer the complaint.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct in that.
Whenever you call in 911, what's the use of calling 911 if nobody's going to answer your complaint? And it's supposed to be recorded. I built actually 911 back there in the fire department. So I know about the system about 911. Yeah. It's all supposed to be recorded. If they're not, then I'm sorry about that. I'm not there no more. But I make sure that those things are done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. St. Nicholas.
We can
vehicles. And I agree, sir, it's very frustrating that we can't do something as simple as just take these cars off the road. And I know that part of it is because The thinking is that these cars belong to someone, and so there's an idea that we can't just go pick up this vehicle, even if it is abandoned, because it's someone's name is on the VIN. A lot of times when they contact these owners, they moved off island, or they just can't get a hold of them, but it's frustrating.
There should be a law that requires that if you park your vehicle, you have 48 hours.
Correct, yes. Senator Duenas,
Correct?
I think Senator Duenas had introduced my vice chair, Senator Chris Duenas, he's right here. Just kidding, he's not, but he had introduced a bill in the last term.
Yeah, it's the public nuisance.
Right, and I know we do have some more concerns about that from another constituent here, but I did want to turn it over to Senator Sabina. And if you could just maybe explain the protocol when, because Mr. St. Nicholas had said before he got here that he had witnessed someone dumping illegally over by Juan Guerrero in the Fernanda pipeline, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in the pipeline area, and so we had called the Guam Police Department, and they had told him call Mayor Savars or Guam EPA. So if you could just share your intel on what the protocol is, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. St. Nicholas. So we did pass a law last term that would allow any law enforcement officer, in fact, they can actually come out to cite the person. So anybody, so police, anybody who has that authority can do this. And so it's not just Guam EPA. So that was supposed to help with enforcement. So I am hosting a roundtable next Thursday at 3 p.m. So you're welcome to come. I know this is one of the issues that I want to prioritize amongst many. So I know Senator Duenas has a bill coming out, and I too am looking at other legislation to kind of remove a lot of those barriers that exist in statute so that we can promptly remove junk vehicles. You know, the administrator was at one of my hearings today, and he said, we spent $5 million, right, to get rid of junk vehicles, and, you know, we don't see really the impact of that $5 million. So obviously, I think we need to really kind of hunker down, and you have my commitment to make these changes, at least statutorily, and hopefully with the collaboration with the the executive branch agencies, we can, you'll see changes coming soon. So,
Okay.
yeah, but you're welcome to come to the roundtable.
Another question that I have concerning junk vehicles, okay, is why is it that they continue to have vehicles parked in their residential and or this land trust property? Why are they growing tires and vehicles around their place? It's so stupid. Why can't there be a severe punishment
for those things? Create a law that says all of these people that are growing cars and tires, and even some people that are doing business at their residence. It shouldn't be at a residence. And then they don't have business license to do those things. They need to start moving a lot of these things out of there. And whoever's going to enforce it, I'm always saying that when we call that individual, they should respond. And that's where I'm fighting this complaint of the police. They don't respond. For those kind of, that's the initial stage, isn't it? You call the police department, call 911, and police officers are supposed to respond, take all the information, and then it is their responsibility to forward it to EPA, and that's the final enforcement. And that's how I learned it. I don't know how you guys learned it, but that's my understanding. It's the police that's first, and then the second person is part of the people that are responsible for the court or EPA. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sergeant Zapal. Yeah, so like Sergeant Zapal said, you're right, they should have responded, but also the mayors have the citation authority. I know they don't like to use it, but
why do we always have to go to the mayor?
right, I know Mayor Savars agrees.
Yes, around here
plenty.
respond. And that's the first
Sir.
responders of the police department.
You're right.
I'm gonna take that
You're
up.
the second responder. I've done that. Anything for fire, investigation, all that, we respond. The fire department responds
we work with the police during any fire and for investigation. We extinguish it, and then we do investigation.
Sergeant, would you recommend to people who are calling in to get the identity of the officers that they're speaking with? So if they
Well, the officer professionally, he's supposed to be acknowledge his name and provide that to you. That's our courtesy in what we do. And Mr. Siniclas, you're absolutely correct. The officer, like I said, I can't speak on what the officer's mindset was. You know, again, as a supervisor, as a duty supervisor, I hold all my officers accountable for their actions and of course their demeanor and how they treat the community. And if you know, that moment in time, when you call, we had officers spread out, we don't know. It really is a matter of putting our priority back into the community. And as minute as our officers may think that your call or complaint is, it really should not be that way. Our officers, we are trying, we are implementing this community-oriented policing approach into which where every complaint, every call, you're going to make sure that it's entertained by the Guam Police Department with the availability of the officers. You know, it's no secret. We do have a shortage of personnel. But we would do our due diligence, and I can't really say why the officer went through referring to mayor or EPA, but rest assured that our officers, we even have a script for them that they would greet you, they would acknowledge you, and they would also state their name. And at any point in time you're dissatisfied with that, anybody who calls the Guam Police Department, you're more than welcome to speak to their supervisor, and we've been really open about this because we need to fix this. Our first line of our community-oriented policing are our desk watch officers, are our dispatchers. They're the first line of the community.
From what I recall, I believe they did refer me to the supervisor. The supervisor told me that call your mayor
And call EPA. I said, could you give me the numbers? They said, oh, we don't have the number.
Yeah, that's really, you know,
And that's a
from my side, you know, that's really unsad. So, but we are working and rectifying that.
We are working with our
I
training
hope
staff.
that you guys will put out memos again to remind the officers their responsibility.
I hope
Every
so.
command,
Every day they will be given that responsibility.
yeah, every command staff, that is
reiterated from then there was the acting police commander was Major Manny Chong. He even drafted a script, gave it to the precincts, and he will call just to check the desk watch officers, because it really is, you know, I mean, our officers become jaded, they become complacent, you know, and it really is a reflection, not just on that particular precinct, but the Guam Police Department and overall. And we're really working in bettering our service to the community.
I hope so.
Yeah, we really are. So, you know, hearing these concerns in public meetings, this is how we better our service to the community. So really, we do appreciate it. Thank you for that. I can't really answer as to why the officer would have gave you that, nor the supervisor would have given you that remark or that comment, but you know, we are holding our officers, each GPD personnel, both our sworn and our civilian support, to higher standards of providing that community service that you so rightfully deserve. So at any point in time, and I leave this open, if anybody is dissatisfied with the service of the Guam Police Department, you're more than welcome to go to the supervisor. If you're dissatisfied with the supervisor, we have the operations sergeant that is on duty. We also have the precinct commanders, and then we now have, under the supervision of newly promoted Major Joe Carbolito, he is the precinct commander, so he's, you know, the complaints can be channeled up even to the chief. Chief Ignacio has an open door policy for any constituents who may have complaints regarding his personnel. So this is how we would like to address our issues with the community and how we can better the service with the community.
Thank you, Sergeant. Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. And you know, you're right. I wasn't trying to make excuses, but this is something that the chief has talked about in a previous roundtable with the legislature. It's very frustrating because people have expressed similar complaints, and so, like Sergeant Tapau said, they take it very serious. A lot of times, it's some of these younger officers, you know, they didn't get the proper training. So, thank you, Mr. Nicholas. because I think Senator Perez had something to say about.
Yeah, so thank you. There are a couple of solutions that I'm thinking. You know, there's one which is, so one of the things that the mayors have brought up is that when people sell their cars, they don't transfer title, right? And so what happens is when they see that car on the road, the person who they sold it to, you know, there's no tracking for that person to really hold them accountable for leaving the car behind. And so that's why we're kind of stuck, right? So one of the ways we can address this is that to require, maybe hold the person who sold the car accountable, rather than, you know, because it's still, the title's still under them. So there has to be a way to either ensure.
That's law. It's called imputed negligence.
Okay.
So what the good senator is talking about is actually law. It's called imputed negligence. It is the duty and responsibility of the sellee or the seller to ensure that it's properly transferred, and that in order for them to relinquish the ownership of the car, they both have to be present at DMV, and which is signed off on them with the registry or the ownership of the vehicle. Now, when you have this, they do it backyard. It's still based on imputed
There's
negligence.
no education about that, Sarge. Nobody knows about those, only us.
So that's the reason why
But there is
there's
law.
got to be an education from revenue tax that in the event that you purchase a vehicle and you're going to sell a vehicle, you must sign something there to say that you will be responsible for that vehicle. When you sell that vehicle, that this individual, okay, they've got that ownership in the back to sign it off, and then they're supposed to put a date. And you got how many days was the date for you to transfer over to the vehicle, right? So if the individual doesn't transfer it, then he resells it, what happens?
It's still the responsibility of the first owner.
How come it be my responsibility when I took that individual in to have it registered?
Yeah. So you have to make
So
sure.
those are a lot of obstacles that you're gonna still encounter.
Yeah. So
The
the
bottom line is, it still needs to be investigated as a
Site
site
where
where they find the vehicle.
And as much as they can, if they don't erase that VIN number, where it has to be worked with revenue tax, they have to have all VIN numbers of all the vehicles registered to who was the last one. And that's how you investigate those things.
But it
And
is
if it
law.
doesn't go down the line, I mean, you know, they dispose of it immediately, because nobody owns it.
So that was one of our babies at Highway Patrol.
Patrol was really enforcing the imputed negligence in the fact, and regardless if ignorance is not going to negate the fact that that is your responsibility.
How many convictions did you guys have?
Man, that's what we charge people with, is imputed negligence, because they felt that
I sold that car.
No, but how many cases did you guys have that was convicted?
Oh, man, that was years ago when I was in highway. So,
That's-
but it is law, Mr.
It's
Nicholas.
hard to.
when we approach that, that's enforceable. That's one of the things
we charge them with. If we can't get the driver, we're gonna go after
All
the
I'm
owner.
asking is that,
If it's possible that the police officers and senators, where you guys come in, is provide them with a impound lot and a vehicle that will impound that immediately, either right under the police department, and rather than contracting it out, it's rather than purchasing one record and then a driver. And that vehicle will be done strictly with the police. You don't have to do contracts with the private agencies, because the private agencies make their numbers just dumping it someplace else. You mean? I've seen this. I've seen this. So these are just some of the recommendations that you guys can probably do. But provide the funds for it, because the police don't have the funds. They're getting paid per hour.
Yes, it's frustrating, sir, with the abandoned vehicles. I don't know why it is so difficult to address it. We spent $5 million picking up abandoned vehicles, but quote Mayor Savars, it's like they're growing all over the place. You go to Swamp Road, instead of growing watermelon, we're growing abandoned vehicle.
And the mayor just stated to us that, you know,
Prices for recycling those vehicles.
Right, it's gone
It's
up.
gone up. And rather than the fundings that they're going to receive, and they didn't itself.
can cover the whole island.
You're right. Thank you, Mr. St. Nicholas. You know, and I think something as easy as let's go put a number on a vehicle on the side of the road, a number 3. You have 3 days to remove it. Next day we put a 2, 1, you know. It's duly noted, and no one comes, we just take it. But thank you, sir. We're going to move on to Mr. Servino. If you don't mind, Mr. Nicholas. Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. Also, Susie Goles, if you can come up, and you'll be after Mr. Servino. And Mr. Ben Servino, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Paris, also Tapano. Thank you for
Coming tonight. For the record, my name is Ben Servino. Like Mr. Nicholas, we're raised here in Bendido. In fact, I live across the street. You know, I've been gone for 30 years, and it's really sad to come home because our island is not safe. You know, I'm really sad to see the situation. I remember when I was growing up, I'd hang out over here by Tycoon store, by the church, and a police officer would always be riding his motorcycle around the village, and he'd stop by just to chat with the kids and find out what the problems are, if they see any crime going on. You know, we need to have more visibility here, police officers. Get them on a bicycle, ride around the village, you know. Meet up with the residents, check with them. You know, if there's more visibility, I think there would be less crime. You know, it's really sad. Somebody in one of our meetings mentioned, gosh, they could put cobots in Tumon and have officers riding bicycles down the beach.
Do you see them in our village? What about our village, our people? Why is it only the tourist that's getting all the attention and getting all the help and the visibility? You know, so I really wish there'd be more visibility here in the villages. You know, people are speeding around this. I live right in the corner here, and I always, every morning when I drive out of my driveway, I'm like stressing out because drivers don't stop at the stop sign. They just, you know, they do the California stop here in Guam, and they just swing right to the right, and I'm at risk of getting hit every day. People don't care, you know. I was driving home last week from Wendy's at night, and I stopped at the signal light here by Harmon and Marine Drive, and was waiting for the light to turn green, and this car next to me just zoomed right past it. It was a red light, and I watched this police officer in the corner of my eye, right at the other side of the road, and he just let him go. I'm saying, why aren't they enforcing the red light speeders, you know? I think there's got to be I don't want to pick on the police department. I mean, they respond very well. It's a part of the neighborhood watch, but I really think there's got to be more proactivity, you know, from the police. They need to enforce the law, like Mr. Nicholas said. There's a lack of enforcement, you know. There's a lack of education and awareness about the laws, so people don't violate the laws. I've seen people here in the park at night drinking beer, and then they trash their cans on the ground and everything, and you know, I have to pick up after them the next day, because I hate to see our parks littered with beer cans, you know, and I've recommended to the mayor that maybe they put some signs right by the benches, the park benches, saying no drinking allowed in this park, right? But even at that, I know people they just ignore signs. We have signs posted all over the park. There's got to be enforcement. And I think that the police vehicle monitor and patrol the area more often. I think they'd be scared to do stuff like that. And there's got to be more lighting. I'm glad they finally put some lights here in the park, but there's still inadequate lighting. They need more lighting because it's very dark. And I just heard Weddingale was, vandalized and robbed. You know, I went to school at Weddingale. My grandkids go to school at Weddingale. It's sad when you see these types of crime that exists in our community. You know, people hate to pick on our fellow islanders from our neighboring islands, but they come to our park and they yell at each other. They have domestic squabbles in the park. I wake up in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock to find out who's yelling out in the park. Of course, I called the neighborhood watch and reported. But just people just don't seem to care. And we need to, again, have that visibility, and I hope that occurs. I know that there's funding issues, there's manpower issues, but we really need to address that. Okay, so that's my concern that I want to raise. And last but not least, the dog issue. I was getting in my car yesterday, and this lady walked up to me and showed me a bite she had on her back of her ankle. And she was scared to go back home because the dog bit her, and the owner just watched from their house and didn't do nothing. And I'm saying, wow, did you call GPD? Did you call, animal control? Because this has got to protect you. And she was scared to go back home. And unfortunately, I was heading out, and I ran in the house, I ran in the back of the house, and I got a pipe, and I said, here, use this, so that when you go back, just, try to swat the dog away. Because she was using her umbrella, but yet the dog still charged at her. So there's got to be a way to address these dogs. We got like 8 dogs down the street that come to my house every day. And I'm sometimes scared to get out because they're not scared of me. When I say scoot them away, they don't go. I've seen pit bulls, not just the regular mutts that you see, but something's got to happen about these dogs that are roaming the streets. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Servito. And yes, I think a lot of our, maybe we can ask Sergeant Tapao, but I think a lot of our issues with crime in the village could be greatly affected by more police presence and visibility, right? And I know Sergeant Tapao is going to talk about the shortages, staffing shortages, resource shortages, but I believe it used to work before, you're right. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years ago, even when we were younger, you could set on your watch when the police car was going to go by, and they were in the villages. And I mean, even something as simple as the police cars going by here at 2 in the morning and, telling everyone to disperse from the park. But we just don't see that presence. We don't see it here in Derrida. We don't see it down south. And it's something that, obviously we can't have police presence if we don't have enough police. And so it's a struggle, but we have to provide the basics. We're not trying to do anything fancy here. Let's just get back to the basics, I think, that'll work. And it's a struggle, right, for the Guam Police Department to utilize the manpower and the resources that they do have effectively. And I think you're right. I think that, we do have a presence in Tuman. You see police there all the time, but we have to remember that there's a whole island outside of Tuman that is falling victim to a lot of crime. And so I agree that we definitely need, to me it's very simple. It's not rocket science, right? The more police presence you have, the more police visibility, the more it deters criminals who have become very brave, right? They're able to do things because we don't have the patrols going around. I mean, they're taking their time, right? And you see it in a lot of these the security footage where they're breaking into Weddingale 40 times, right? They're breaking into Emi Lujan in Jotnia. It's not just Derrida. I was at Emi Lujan this morning, and they've been broken into 20 times this year. And I really think that if we just have these patrols, and I'm gonna throw it over to Sergeant Powell because I'm sure he has something to say about it. But it just seems very basic, and to me, it's tragic that we can't, at the very least, provide that level of presence and visibility for our community.
So, to go over the manpower in which each precinct is mandated under the acting police commander or the operations bureau chief and the chief, acknowledged by the chief, operations of 1105. So that's one desk watch officer, one supervisor, and or 5 officers that are patrolling. We may mention that the population here at Derrida is, within the northern area in which the Derrida precinct has to cover, we're looking at 75,000 people. Gone are the days where we had additional officers to actually film an alpha, where we had the full beat coverage. We are looking at filling all those with officers with our current police cycle that's going on right now. We have 16 candidates that should be out on patrol by end of July. We are now finishing and vetting 40-some officers that are what we call in the hole, that are going to be starting another cycle. We should be starting another cycle once we get the 16 officers out in the street. The Guam Police Department, I think, is the only government agency that has a continuous employment announcement. And this is how active we're trying to work on recruitment. We are trying to hit a peak in which we are trying to fill the void just to cover the mandated areas of coverage. So Dededo precinct has 7. We should have at least 7 or 8 officers patrolling. So it's 1 to 7. If you go Alpha 1 straight to 7. Right now we have 5 officers that are covering that, so we're short 2. To maximize the manpower, that's ideal, but we're learning as population increase, we may need to increase our coverage and of course additional officers. That's where we're trying to get to. You're right, proactive patrol, it's more feasible than reactive patrol because the presence of the officer will definitely deter crime. More interaction with the police, with the community, I think it's important. Getting down and interacting and finding out what's going on. Retired Captain Amiguin, he was my supervisor. We were really, prior to us being assigned, this was our baby too, being assigned to Dededo. So being able to implement that requires more personnel. If we don't tie down the officers with just responding to the calls that they receive, I want to say in every 30 minutes, we have officers that are free to do proactive patrol. And it's really the supervisor and how creative they can be. It's not to say that Tuman has more officers. They have the same amount of officers. What we're seeing is really, it's just a small geographic area compared to Dededo and Jigo, compared to Mangilao and Veragata. The geographic size of the area they have to cover. So, that plays a factor in what you're seeing down in Tumon, is that the officers are just driving back and forth, either responding to a call, returning to the precinct, and the distance that the proximity creates that optics of the officers constantly being there. But the lack of enforcement is a concern. That's always been in the torn of every chief side, every supervisor, every commander, is why aren't our officers effectuating pullovers? And I think every magistrate report that you're reading, every post or every news report of a drug arrest, it's all attributed to traffic stops. So our officers are out and about doing traffic stops, are and about enforcing the highway laws and everything. What ends up out of that is really, we're seeing that it leads to bigger and better things, so to say, such as the discovery of illicit drugs and stuff. So whether we have our highway patrol guys out there or our regular patrol, it is the basic backbone of patrol to enforce and of course to do all these traffic enforcements. But sir, we are working at filling these positions. The good senator is working closely with the chief. We're trying to recruit. I'm in a school, I'm working on a pilot program with the CJ Academy pathway, trying to recruit high schoolers to come on and join the force. Because once we see officers, we know that we're dealing with the federal government, we're dealing with outside agencies also competing for our officers that are newly minted out in the streets because of the training that they receive under the Guam Police Department. Our officers are pretty much well sought after throughout the nation and of course here in Guam. So we lose a lot to other agencies. We're trying to see what we can do to recruit more. I mean, recruiting is one of the things in which my office is working diligently in getting the numbers into what we once had back when we had a full fleet of officers, both in our personnel and our equipment. But it's a process that we're diligent. We're trying to work out and get everybody up to par. Yeah, and being involved in a neighborhood watch program is one of our major assets that we have in the community, because a lot of the arrests that we are receiving, especially dealing with narcotics and reaching out with this recent burglary case that this individual that's running for, it was really attributed by the neighborhood watch and the communities who provided surveillance videos around our home. So it gave us a lot of information that we're needing. So bolstering a neighborhood watch program and staying active with your police is one way in which we can actually mitigate. But we're doing a lot of programs for the community. We're doing really with the schools, working with the community. The mayor and I, we just had a meeting yesterday with our prevention partners, and some of the ideas that we want to do is really bringing the police back into the community with some events. So a lot of stuff in stores.
Thank you, Sarge. Thank you, Mr. Servino. Senator Paris?
Yes, thank you, Ben. So I'm really, first of all, I want to commend the Daddy Doe community because you have one of the most vigilant neighborhood watch groups. And so I do have a good friend who is on the watch. And every time I get a concern, I send it directly to the chief. And I think the chief has been trying to, reach out to the community. So please keep what you're doing. I know we can't, we're trying our best to address a lot of concerns. And so just to let you know that, we are in step with, Officer Tapal regards to try to building up the police force, because that's one of the biggest issues, right, as regards to police presence. And so as a teacher, right, as a former teacher, I think there's a lot of room where we can, create more pipelines within our current educational system so we can have a steady stream of law enforcement officers. Because, right now, I think at one point we had 400 police officers, and now we're I think, well below that level to help support the needs of our community. So we are actively, working with the Guam Police Department. I think one of the issues that we're experiencing is that some of these candidates don't pass the test. And so that is why we need to really beef up the education system and maybe look at how we train them so that, we get more people in the pipeline. In regards to stray dogs, so the good news is we have more conservation officers being hired. And, really, I don't know if you were able to reach out to Department of Ag. You were able to?
I was actually at that bike home Mr. Servino was talking about last night. So I'm the one that actually took the constituent that got bit to the hospital because she didn't have a ride. So I took her to the hospital and she was able to get a family member to take her back home.
So,
And animal control is on top of it right now.
yeah.
It's just a matter of trying to get the actual dog that bit her. And I believe they had issued him a citation if I'm not mistaken.
That's the power of animal control. They really do beating them up. But also, too, the territorial vet is keen on any animal attacks because of the fact of the rabbit and any infection that the animal may have. So that's really important that it's documented through animal control.
And also lighting. So I introduced a bill to help beef up the lighting, as far as the funds are concerned, because the funds are being siphoned off into a different area in government. And so I created a bill to make sure that fund stays whole and we can address. And that, in fact, the bill would, it requires consultation of GPD. So in addition to GPA, so we can prioritize those areas that the community needs. So we are working on these solutions, and hopefully they can come to fruition to support the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Parrish. She's talking about her streetlight bill. Basically, they work in conjunction with GPD. For example, if it's dark out here, GPD would come and say, hey, we need 10 streetlights here. That's a great idea. Ma'am, Susie Goles? Good evening. And coming up, if we could get Pierre, if you're going to testify, Liz Amagwin, go ahead and take a seat at the table. And Miss Susie, right? Okay, ma'am. So just say your name for the record, and then you can go ahead and start with your testimony. Thank you.
Yeah, I am Mrs. Susie Goles. I have a question to the animal, to the dogs, because I called, before the election, we called the animal control, and they pick up 2 dogs, and we have a lot of dogs in the area, in our area, because my granddaughter got bitten here. So we called the animal control, but they only pick up 2 and they don't never come back. And then I keep calling, they never answer anymore. answer anymore. So I'm here for the loud music only. I'm not against slow music. I'm here for the loud music, and I'm not against any kind of music. But as long as it is low, that won't bother your neighbor, and that's my problem. They make it so loud that you can never sleep, even though you close your doors or windows on your aircon. It's still bothering because it is loud. So I don't know. I go to the mayor's office, and they won't even talk to me because he said that is not our job. That is GPD's job. And then when I called the police, he said, talk to your mayor.
That's what we're fixing. I have the, I had a talk with her before the meeting, and I'm corresponding right now with the precinct commander, Lieutenant Yi. So he's asking for your papers and everything, and we're going to work with that. So
Okay, thank you very much.
you got it. We got you, man.
Call him over
to let him answer it.
It is really hurting my ears.
Yeah.
And loud music. There's a law, right? Introduced by but it's never enforced yet, because it's not a law yet.
I think you're talking about Senator Duenas and a public nuisance bill,
Yes.
right, Senator Duenas? No, just kidding. No, sorry. He did have a bill, a public nuisance bill, and so I don't know the status of that, but it's definitely something that we can
That
look
was
into.
in 2021, and it's still not approved.
We'll follow up into that. I believe I was talking with Mayor Savars. That was a public nuisance, right? Public nuisance law. But you have very valid concerns, ma'am. I know that. I'm not sure if you thought, oh, it's just loud music, but it's something that a lot of people are dealing with. And I'm thankful for Sergeant Zapata to follow up on that, and I hope that you can get a good night's rest.
Yes, thank you, Senator.
Thank you,
Because
ma'am.
who likes loud music?
Only if it's Chamorro music. No, we've
It's
taken.
okay if it's public. but
Right, it's
in
a
the
party.
residential area.
But what time is this? Like all night?
Sometimes all day and all night. So it's really, it's only been a few hours. It's okay. We don't tolerate that. But all day, sometimes all night up to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
And have you tried talking to your neighbor?
Yeah, but they ignore me.
Wow, disrespectful.
Yes.
How old are they?
They just look at me like that.
Are they younger, older?
Yeah, they're younger.
Younger.
And there are also older. There also have senior citizens there.
Wow. So thank you, Sergeant Chapala. Yeah, he's gonna address. They're gonna go bring the precinct over there, talk to him.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
so much. Thank you,
Senator
Senator.
Perez.
Senator. Thank you.
Actually, yeah, if you can leave more of your contact information, we can follow up with Department of Ag regarding the dogs.
Yeah, that's right. I'm telling the truth. Because before the election, I went to Vice Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and they called the secretary, Gutierrez, the guidance secretary, Gutierrez, and they called the animal control. And then they only pick up 2, and then they never come back. And there's a lot of dogs there, because my granddaughter got bitten in the. Still a lot of dogs.
We're gonna look into that, ma'am. And I know that, I know in the pandemic, the mayors were doing a big roundup of all the stray dogs. I think they had like a couple 100,000 for that, right?
No,
No?
not 100,000.
Okay.
No way, not 100,000.
No.
Yeah, it's
Hey.
just scary to go around.
Yeah.
Even to bike around, it's already very scary.
feel you, man. We're gonna get animal control on the line and definitely follow up with the Department of Agriculture. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Pierre?
It's working. Good evening. Thank you for coming to our legal community. For the sake of honesty, I didn't vote for you, either one of you, but I'm glad you're bringing a new, fresh approach to the legislature. And Senator Perez, your auntie, asked me to be nice with you, so I will. So I think what we are hearing tonight is the frustration of a lot of people of not knowing where to address their issues. And what we are facing is the infamous circular firing squad, where the mayor goes like this, DPW goes like this, the police department goes like this. And I understand that, you know, I mean, the problem that the police departments are not new, the lack of staffing is quite a problem. We're, I think, about 100 police officers short. So even if you get another 16 and you lose half of them to other agencies, it is a problem that the legislature needs to take seriously and stop sweeping under the rug, because it has very bad effect on the community, and we could hear it tonight. People are frustrated. And I also understand the police officer side. They have to prioritize in their mind what is the most threatening thing to answer. And a lot of times they are under a lot of pressure. If you call the Dedido precinct in the evening, there is only one officer answering the phone, and he's busy, he or she. So this is a major issue. And we know, and it's nothing new, we know that in government we are fighting inertia and lack of political will, right? And a lot of the issues that we have are both. I would say we have issues of quality of life, which can be tied to the trash, the cars abandoned along the streets, who are also becoming health and pollution issues. And then we are talking about environmental issues that are related to crimes. And also we had Attorney General that was not enforcing getting people that the police arrested. It was a revolving door. So now we're living with the consequences of that. Now I've talked to Attorney General Moylan, and he seems to be willing to go after those small crimes, based along the line of what Mayor Giuliani did in New York about the broken windows, going after the small quality of life issue and addressing them. Unfortunately, the GPD doesn't have the staff to do it. So we're having a chicken or egg issue, right? Was it the chicken that came first or the egg? It doesn't matter. We need to solve it. And this is why I was happy to see you coming to this community and asking for our feedback. Now, I know Senator Perez is very concerned about environment, especially within the wire. But outside of the wire, around here, and especially where I live in the back of the Ipapao, okay? And this is the Bumachachu area, and this is an area where you have a lot of Chamorro land trust, okay? The people that end up living on those plots are usually people with very little resources. They live in shacks. They need to be evacuated when we have a typhoon. They have a lot of dogs. They are running through some rough time because a lot of them used to work in the hospitality industry, which was completely wiped out by the COVID epidemic. So we have an issue, a social issue there, and of course a lot of those people ended up being taking issues with alcohol, drugs, and so on, small crimes. But if I look, we just finished remodeling 28 all the way to Bumachachu. If you take a right on Bumachachu, and a lot of people do in order to have access to the back of the back gate, right? There are a lot of traffic at certain times of the day. And what you have is that the jungle is so overgrown that you no longer see the abandoned cars. And I counted about 17 between 28 and Bartolou. Now the mayor, last time they came by, the mayor took about 12. They didn't pick them all up, some of them. They're at the stop sign, and Paul, that's for you, at the stop sign of Bumachachu and 28. There is a car there that's blocking the stop sign, and you have to advance on the road in order to see the oncoming traffic coming from Swamp Road. So it's really a reoccurring thing, and I understand that there is new laws. As I heard the other senator who is not here because he had to get a haircut. We have. You like that one, huh? So, but it's quite important that it's not good enough to solve it for 3 months and then it's all over again. We also have abandoned land on Chamorro Land Trust, which are being used as shop shops. And and Senator Perez, you should be very worried about that. We have acids in car, we have rare metals, and all this goes in the aquifer. This is something that, it's not something we can brush off, because it impacts also our aquifer. And when the jungle overgrows and all those things, all the poor kids in those little settlements have to walk in the morning to go to their bus in the middle of the road, because there is no longer a space for them to walk on the side of the road. So we are endangering our young kids who are going to school in very bad public building, right? And those are accidents waiting to happen. And on top of it, we have wild pigs, snakes, and wild dogs. So that's one of the main issues. Another issue is the non-enforcement of the EPA by some, and I'm not saying there are many of them, but there are some repeated offenders that have up to 20 cars on their lots. Again, leaking acid, oil, rare metals in the ground. And those places are full of snakes, wild chicken, and you name it. I don't know which one brings the other. So this quality of life issue needs to be addressed. Addressing the GPD manpower issue, I think it's very important. Coordinating with the Attorney General so that the people that actually do bad things get called for and pay for it. And find a way in the government, because right now that circular firing squad, where you call the PD to have a car removed, they tell you to send to Mayor Tavares. Mayor Tavares never heard about it, or the person that's there, they don't understand the law. Actually, I saw a sign when I came here, government building, keep out. Well, a government building is a public place. People don't understand. It's have access to everybody. So, Senator Perez, you were talking about educating our police officers, because we have a lack of education and a lot of the recruits that we have cannot pass the test. We have a lot of officials.
Sorry, I didn't say a lot. There is some of them that don't pass the test. So, we're trying to work out solutions. I think that's what's important to know, is that, when our approach to these problems, we are working on solutions.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about, abandoned vehicles, I do have a public hearing coming up. So I am very concerned about what happens outside the fence. In fact, I have been working on a lot of these things.
I'm glad to hear that.
Perhaps before you moved to Guam. So Maybe it just hasn't gotten out there, the word hasn't gone out there, but I am very concerned about the aquifer. In fact, water was the reason why I got into this. And I'm very aware, as a teacher, I did promote stewardship, protection of our aquifer. So before the policies came, the education was there. So I have several solutions, and I wasn't able to detail them, but I do want to maybe bring this to the round table. I hope to have a couple pieces of legislation coming out of this to address these issues. And of course, I attended the Mehesa Balau, which is the 25th anniversary of the women's gathering. And one of the things I took away from them was, it's not, sustainability is not just about pointing out what is wrong, but promoting what is right. And so I think what's critical is that not only are we trying to address the problems, but we need to create this culture, right? This sense of pride in our home, right? Would we want to destroy our home? I mean, nobody would want to destroy their home, and I think that's what we really need to bring back, is really kind of reinforcing that culture, that sense of community. And what you're seeing around us is really more of a symptom of what's occurring in our community. Whether it is drugs, right? We have a high rate of drug use. And there is some anecdotal evidence to point out that our environmental issues could be related to this. And so, yes, we can address the issues, but we also have to look at the roots of the problems. And so, I'm indigenous to this island, and that's why I took up service, is to try to make a better life for our community in the long term. And I know change is not going to happen overnight, and some of these solutions take a holistic approach. And so that's what I'm working on. It's just not out there yet. Maybe you haven't heard it, but there are things being worked on. So I appreciate your testimony, and maybe we can talk some more. You can find out more of what I'm doing, and definitely
I follow your work very closely.
And you're welcome to come to the round table, and hopefully we can develop a pathway forward.
I understand at the same time, because I've lived in French Polynesia, I've lived in Taiwan, and I understand a lot of the problems we're facing are not particular to Guam or the lack of community understanding. A lot of it are problems that we're facing all over the islands in the Pacific. Wild dogs is one of them, and I don't think anybody right now has found a panacea to those problems, but I think a coordination between the communities, like you're doing tonight, with this outreach. And I saw there was some Taiwanese vets that came and volunteered to do the catch and release a few weeks back. All those issues are very helpful, but for a while, the Department of Agriculture only had one pet officer, and so we need to have long-term, holistic solution in order to address all those things, because you can feel the frustration tonight, because a lot of people see those things, but they don't understand the whole approach, and I'm glad you were here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre. I'd also like to recognize Speaker Therese Terlahi. Madam Speaker, has oversight of Chamorro Land Trust. Thank you. Did you have anything to add, Madam Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Pierre. Also coming up, we have John Savares and Uncle Ernie Wostick, if you want to have a seat at the table if you're going to testify. But right now, let's hear from Liz Amaguin.
Hello. Okay. I just have a question, or it could be a statement. I know the fire department, they currently...
I'm sorry, ma'am. We're going to turn on your microphone.
It is on. It's just, I need to go home. Okay. I just have a question or an issue. I know the fire department, they charge $195 or $200 to transport individuals for an emergency from their home, from a car accident, from all this area, if you need to go to a hospital. And I know the fundings goes directly to the fire department for purchasing any equipment that they may use or anything for the fire needs. The only thing that I want to clarify is that when they send you a billing, and assuming that the billing is coming from Guam, because it specified right there in the billing says paid to Bank of Guam, and it has a credit card numbers there, you can pay credit card. Then I come to find out it's actually a billing from the States. It's not in Guam. So you would have to talk to them in the midnight. So the only thing I have is that when they send those billings, you pay them, and then later on it comes in as a collection, several months later. And then you try to contact them, there's nobody that you can get a hold of because you have to call 1 o'clock in the morning or midnight, and then you speak with them. According to them, they never had a billing. You go to Bank of Guam and they say, oh, we resend it to their account. It's paid off already. It's frustrating. I mean, especially if you got in a car accident, if you're medically in need and you can't get a hold of these people. Now, my clarification is the government of Guam or fire department paying these people off island to collect? Is that costing government money? How is that working? That's why the frustration part. I don't speak for myself. I did check around with other people and they had the same issue. And imagine my car accident was in February, paid it in April, come December, and it's still in collection. That's frustrating. So how is that? I mean, is that like, is the government involved paying this entity off island to collect for the fire department, or do they have somebody here in Guam that represent this, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think I had the same problem. I was able to resolve it because I think I contacted somebody locally, so the fire department locally, and they were able to clear it up.
Yes, I did. I contacted the chief of the fire chief, because I couldn't get a hold of anybody else anymore. And when I try to contact that individual, it's actually through an 800 number. So I just I think when it comes to that, if people are sick and then they have to take care of their billing and they want to pay those billings, and it's just hard to take care of that, and then you get the runaround. And it reminded from April all the way to December, and luckily I was off island in the States. I was able to call that from the States in the same time zone. So that's the frustrating part.
We can follow up on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not familiar with that problem. It's the first time I've heard it. I'm in charge of the EMS commission, and I don't remember any contracts for that type of thing, but training and those, but I will follow up as well. So thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, I think it's under the GMH mem, so they work closely when they work.
The Guam Memorial Hospital collections? Is that what we're talking about? Or the fire department?
So the ambulatory service, I think it's inclusive with.
Yeah, when I get the building, it's not from GMH. It's actually an entity of island. I still have my statement and everything else.
All right.
So that's why I was really shocked when the building says paid to Bank of Guam.
Yes.
So I assume the company's here. So that's why I was thinking, are you guys paying the fire department or the government of Guam is paying this entity off island to collect?
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm wondering if that's that contract that they just canceled, but we'll see. I will follow up for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Wistig?
I may be just a simple farmer. My name is Ernest Worstead. We do have a pandemic problem with these vehicles, abandoned vehicles. Have we ever had a survey on how many abandoned vehicles we got on this island? Have we ever have they ever do a survey to check how many abandoned vehicles?
I'm not too sure about that, but what I know is that it's a growing problem.
Yeah, it's a pandemic problem. Every time you turn yourself around, you look there, abandoned, abandoned, abandoned. It's frustrating. I was born and raised here. And it wasn't like this when I was 8 years old, or 10 years old, or even 15 years old. It wasn't like this. I went to the States for 23 years. When I came back, it's frustrating. That's why I decided to stay back in Guam. Maybe I can help out and do something. You know, in some more land trusts, people are farming cars, abandoned cars. Thousands of them, not just hundreds, thousands of them. Every time you go onto the farming community, there's about like 15 vehicles around their place, or 20. I'm with the Mayor's Council. I addressed this. I asked our mayor, how many abandoned vehicles do we have in Delhi alone? And her answer was, it costs $500, $125 to pick them up, and $400 to strip the cars. So there's $500. Maybe this is why we have lots of abandoned vehicles. The people they don't know where to put them. And our government is not doing something about it to address this issue. It is a pandemic problem. It's an eyesore. I have a daughter-in-law that came out to Guam like 15 years ago. And she says, oh my God. Oh, you see, there's a lot of abandoned vehicles everywhere. And you know, that goes back to the States and what our regulation is going to be. So I don't know, money is the issue. Then let's increase the licensing fee to $50. Every time you go and register your vehicle for $100, $120, make it $170. I'll bet you this vehicle will be gone. It will be recycled overnight if we do have that money. Or is our senators afraid that if they raise the fee, they're not going to get elected? I think we should find a solution. I think money is the solution. If we have the money, we can take it. Money can go a long ways. Then we have another problem here in Delhi. Our population is over 45,000. We have one vice mayor, one mayor with a population of 45,000. What is the population of Delhi or Oregon? And the budget is still the same. Why? It is not fair. There goes the money again. Money is the problem. We don't have enough money to take care of a lot of our problem out here. We have another pandemic problem. Homeless issue. I've never seen this before. I went up to Wendy's to order a hamburger, and a homeless came up to me and asking me for $1 while I work hard for my $1. I get frustrated with this homeless issue here. We never had this problem when I was growing up. Why aren't we addressing this issue seriously? Homelessness. Maybe I'll stop there because there's a lot more problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wistic. I think we'll start with the abandoned vehicles, and I'm just gonna defer to Senator Perez because I know that it just seems like one of those things like the homelessness where we start to address it and we form a council or a task force and it just seems to get worse the more we try and fix it. And the abandoned vehicles, I don't know if it's that people saw the mayors picking up the abandoned vehicles so they thought, oh, Lana, they're picking it up, let's just go keep on abandoning it. But we have spent, how much, Senator Perez, do you know offhand, how much money have we spent collecting abandoned vehicles?
Well, the administrator said we spent like $5 million, and forget the duration of that expenditure, but we have the recycling revolving fund, where we get about $2.8 million every year. And so some of that money, I believe it was $1 million, went to the mayors to help remove junk vehicles, white goods, all sorts of things. And so we did recently update that law to include interim storage. So there is potential to use that money for impound lots. So we need to, sit together. I do have a roundtable coming up on Thursday. Hopefully we can hammer out some solutions. And I'm already thinking of 3 potential bills, right, that could address this issue. Everything that you're saying, we need to be able to translate it to help, facilitate solutions. And I hear the frustration. And, being law-abiding citizens, why can't, our fellow citizens, properly dispose of these things? Why aren't they feeling the same, frustration as we do? And they have to be held accountable. We also need to create a system that's going to facilitate this. So, I don't have all the answers, so that's why I want to invite you to this roundtable where we can maybe create this. But we also need to implement it. So the legislature, what we could do is create policies, but it's only as good as whether it's implemented. And so we really need the support of everybody in government to help carry this through. And like I said, we may be addressing the problem, but the root of the solution could be something else. And that is going to take a bigger, I think a bigger sort of effort. Considering like drugs, I think drugs is one of the many underlying issues that we need to address. And that's, that's an epidemic. That's another epidemic, right? But I'm still very hopeful. And as long as we're still trying to address this, I think, we can move. I feel we can progress.
Now, if let's say there's 200,000, if there's 100, how many homes do we have on Guam? Around 50,000 homes? 100,000?
I think based on the water accounts, there's about 40,000.
Okay.
40,000.
So 40,000 times 4 at least. That's 160,000 vehicles. So there's 160,000 vehicles. It's very easy. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out how much money we need to dispose of this vehicle. We can talk all about it. We can talk about solutions and everything. I think the bottom line is we just have to get enough money to get rid of this vehicles. $50 per license fee. That can go a long ways for 40,000, for 160,000 times 5. How about that?
Mr. Lustig, your questions are excellent. I'm not afraid to raise fees if that was going to be the solution to get rid of vehicles. Right now, what I have seen is that we have put all the money in the recycling revolving fund, almost all of it towards picking up these cars. And, you know, even the contractors to pick them up are maxed out. Everyone's maxed out. We're maxing out our money, we're maxing out the work that they, you know, they're doing it in stages. So by the time they come back again to Dedido, the cars are reloaded. So yeah, if money can solve it, you know, we're going to find the money, and we are putting the money in. Everybody wants to take care of that. I agree with you. There's so many other things, like even the Chamorro Land Trust debates whether to put up fencing, but to spend that money on that when we could be spending that money to bring in water or something else to those properties, you know, it's a shame to use it to prevent dumping. But I also wanted to talk about your question about the mayors. I think that's changed recently. So just very recently, the formula changed a little bit, right, Mayor? That first of all, there's always been a formula where it's by population. So you get certain types of funds based on your population. And then of course there are other funds, like you said, that goes to every village equally, right? And so that might not look fair to the very big villages, but it's not all the funds. So some of the funds are by village equally, and the other funds, and I think more of them now, because of recent changes, more of the funds now go by population to that village because of these types of things that you're describing. What was the third question? The third question was...
Homeless.
Well, the homelessness, yeah. We have never put in more resources than we are now. So, again, I'm afraid money, we can do much better, of course. We've got the services for these people. A lot of them don't want to avail, and we can't force them, and that's one issue. But they've been trying over and over and spending a lot of time trying to get these same people to avail of the services. We are building shelters. We have shelters. We fund them every year. They're not enough. We're still funding more, and we're building more. So I think poverty is a huge issue of Guam. It's really poverty. So it's a cycle that we're in, and we've got to break out of this poverty cycle. There's so many people who work so very hard, like you have all your life. There's people who have no skills, haven't learned any, or trauma, right? So there are different things, and we are trying to solve all of it, but there's so many different ones that it's not one how do you call it, solution for each of them. But I think everybody agrees with you. This is an issue. It's a health issue, for sure, safety issue. And I think it doesn't look like it, maybe, because times are really, really hard, right? But I don't think we've ever put more money than we are putting in today towards homelessness, towards services for these people, towards retraining for people who have lost their jobs and need a different type of skill set. They can go to school for free for different skills, but even that, they're not fully taking advantage of it. So I'm afraid it's generations of poverty are catching up with us, and to get them all out in a couple years is difficult, but we're working on it. I mean, I feel like we're putting money into it, and we might have to keep thinking of what's the real solution, because money is not solving all of these issues, as you know. But thank you. Your concerns are very valid.
Thank you, Mr. Lustig. Yeah, it's a complicated issue, the homelessness, and I think that we have sheltered some people who wanted to be sheltered, but part of the problem is that a lot of these people have decided that they just want to be on the street. And that's the reality, because our people are very generous, and so I've talked to so many of these homeless people, and they'd rather be out on the street asking for money because we're generous. They make maybe sometimes $50, sometimes $100 a day, sometimes more. But they'd rather do that than go, work 8 hours for someone, or a lot of times too, because of drugs or mental health issues, they've fallen out with the family. And so they have nowhere to go but to the street. And, Speaker is absolutely right. There's so many different services that these people can, that are available for these people, but sadly, a lot of them just don't want the services. They want to stay out on the street, they don't want to be bothered, and that's the reality. And some do. Some people really are genuinely hard times, want to turn their life around, but others have gotten used to this existence. It's something that they're comfortable with, and they just, a lot of times, and I know because I talk to people who do the outreach, they just don't want the help. They just don't want to be bothered. But some of them do. So I think for the people who want the help, who want to turn the page and turn their life around, we have to really try harder to get those people in the systems and in the programs that are available for them. And then for the ones who don't, I think that we have to think outside the box. Like we need to have curfew zones. For example, you shouldn't be out here drinking in the park at 2 in the morning, right? In a perfect island, and not even a perfect island, a basic island, we would have the police going around saying, hey, clear it, or you know what I mean? Or maybe after a certain time, if you're sleeping in the street or whatever, you get picked up and they take you to a shelter where you spend the night. And I think that we've got to really, because the Speaker's right, we've never spent as much money as we have. We've got the Lieutenant Governor, they have a whole homeless poverty prevention task force. They tried everything. They tried being nice, they tried evicting, they tried, letting the people panhandle, they tried, calling the police on the panhandle. But you're right, the problem's not going away, and it's not just panhandling at the intersection. You go to Wendy's, they're asking $1. You go to the mom and pop store, they're outside, kind of that you're paying a toll. When you come out from the store, they're asking for money. When you go in, they're asking for money, and we're all, in Popley, we're all poverty is a huge issue. But I think we have to get creative in how we're going to address it if we want to now, because there's some people that just don't want the help. So how do we address those people? And then the ones that do, we have to work harder and work smarter to get it to them. So yeah, we're committed. I mean, it's so frustrating. You're right. A lot of these problems, from abandoned vehicles to homeless, we never had it before. But as our population has increased, as the demographic has gotten away from what it used to be, we're just facing all of these issues. And it does seem to me like they're all exploding at the same time. And that's the challenge for us as leaders, is to figure out which problems we can solve and to listen to people like yourself, Mr. Lustig. So thank you for your testimony. Mr. Suarez.
Thank you, Senator Barnett, for bringing the voices of the village to the village, where it really needs to be coming from. Senator Perez and Speaker Terlani for being here. Sergeant Paul Tapao. Once again, we meet at the same venue, because last time we were here, we were discussing the neighborhood watch programs, right? And right after that, I had seen personally an increase in patrols. So I'm pretty sure after you leave this venue, we're going to see that increase in patrols once again. But how long can we sustain that increase and keep it going? Because Mr. Savino is absolutely right. Every single night, we see the issue happening here. I drive past the park every night because I feel like I know what's going on here. We see it. And if I have to drive past, come down a couple streets just to do that, because I know it helps the community as a whole, then I'm going to take the time to do that. And I wish more, after our last roundtable here in this room, they were out here. They were out patrolling the village. We saw massive floods of police for probably 6 weeks. I remember this because they were even going down my street. Now we're back to the same situation here, the same concern. I hope that GPD can keep the momentum like they did when we picked it up, and I know you're going to bring it back. You know, the precinct commander, he was here, very responsive, and he really put the boots to ground after we had our neighborhood watch meeting in here, and I hope we get that back up and running. Be sustainable here. But if you go out to the Chamorro Land Trust areas where a lot of this northern aquifer is located, through the pipeline, through Swamp Road, Hahasu, right by Mr. Wistick's corn farm. Because if you go to Mr. Wistick's corn farm, there's no junk cars back there because Mr. Wistick, he has his own mechanisms, right? They have people who want his community there. Ensure that doesn't happen. But all the leaching from the oil, the coolant leaching right above our northern aquifer into that soil that is supposed to be protecting the northern aquifer. And we say we care about our island. Prioritize the water systems that we have here. If we cannot protect our water, Guam is going to struggle. We're already seeing it in Arahan. When last year I was told by somebody who's directly affected by the waterways, the runoff from the Basula, Hanum Basula, out of Luzon, in Arahan, from Malolo to Arahan. And they're saying that the freshwater springs that used to run down to their houses no longer fresh water. You can tell it's contaminated. But we're going to say it's okay, and we're going to look the other way and prioritize other areas on our island when the northern aquifer, which gives us life on this island, has hundreds, if not thousands, of cars and white goods. This area is where our water, a bulk of our water for our island is at. If this gets contaminated, what are we going to answer to our people? How do we answer to the people of this island that some of our freshwater reservoirs have been contaminated by things that we could have prevented? When is enough enough? When the coolant of the oil starts leaching into the ground and we cannot revert that? That's very disturbing. I hope we address this and we put a priority on protecting the water because we say it's so important for us, right? Go out, look if you drive down there. Pretty sure Sergeant Tapao, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. There's chop shops down in these areas. I didn't know that Chamorro Land Trust was where the chop shop was going to be versus the trunk music so we can feed our people. If people are going to be using Chamorro Land Trust for things that are not supposed to be being used for, then guess what? People like Mr. Ernie Wistig, a farmer, can plant food for our community because it is important for us to have sustainability. Trees, corn, those things are going to sustain our community, the future generations of this island. Not junk cars, not washing machines. All those things are just destroying the environment that we need here to live. I ask you to address this in a more judicious manner. We would have to prioritize and focus the priority on places that are going to really affect the long-term success of our people. You know, I've heard stories that, oh yeah, the mayor took 4 cars from my house because they don't have junk cars, they don't have the junk car issue. So we're going to prioritize private property over free just because the mayor had extra? Where's the priority? Junk cars on the side of the road that are impeding? Junk cars that are right here that could possibly affect, that are leaching into the oil and the coolants or the liquids are leaching into the soil? Where's the priority? If it's on somebody's private property, why is the government of Guam pulling it off? I've heard the stories many, many times. One last thing, because I know we are here for an education roundtable, and I want to make sure I don't forget all our schools up in the north, right? We have a lot of school issues, and I know Sammy Sanchez is being worked on. FB really needs massive work. But don't forget, Juan Guerrero, BMS, Maria Ujoa, Binagazan Elementary, the rest of the schools that are deteriorating, that are 20 plus years old. And it's not just in Derito, it's every single village. I challenge you, on your way out, go out this way towards BMS. There's 6 pallets sitting out there, whatever it may be. Those 6 pallets have been sitting at BMS since November. And actually it was like 15 at one point. We have 16 pallets of things that the government of Guam has bought that's still sitting out there getting weathered. I don't know what it is, but we should protect the things that we invested. It shouldn't sit out in the rain. It shouldn't be out there for 5 months. I watched this just sit there. Our schools are deteriorating. I know you guys, the legislature has taken money from ARP or has expedited the processing for procurement so we can address our school issues. And as well as ensuring that there's additional revenues and Senator Barnett keeping on the ball every month. The current superintendent, the acting superintendent, she has made that commitment to you. Every month, expect that report. Demand nothing less. Because it is what the people of our island demand. Our schools, our children need this. And just as much as our children need fresh water for the long term. I thank you guys for coming out today. In Iran, it's going to be great because that's where the good senators are from. But thank you guys for coming out, and you guys have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Suarez. Thank you, Mr. Wistik again. Former Senator Casper Bauer, retired captain, and also Mr. Nanabusan. You guys want to come up and we'll close out. But Senator Perez, did you have any comments on the aquifer?
The chop shops on Chamorro Land Trust are violations of the Chamorro Land Trust leases. They know this, they're trying to cite them. Of course, their reasoning is that they're understaffed, and so it's they're either going to be spending all their time doing that or trying to get out some new leases, and that's kind of where they're stuck. So of course we're trying to find a solution to that. It's the same, I guess, rationale we get for so many problems. Oh, short of staff. But yeah, we're trying to get to the bottom of that. But those are violations, so just keep sending them in. Those are all violations. They should be cited, and whatever the lease says is going to happen to them, that's what's supposed to happen. Yeah.
Put a farmer.
Who would help the car crushing right there, the road, the old gas station right behind it, they used to crush cars there, in that scrap mill, right, behind that, and the who allowed those people right over the homelands?
Yeah, there's a lot of these permitting that doesn't make sense to me either. The mineral extraction that goes so deep over the aquifer, like you said, the junk collections over the aquifer don't make sense to me either, and so I'm hoping.
Maybe we need to get that giant start right in the middle again, because I did it with Chirola, we were collecting from Chico over there to south junk cars, and taking it out. I guess we don't have any more. But yeah.
Sir, if you want to come up and testify, please do.
We're too busy taking care of everybody else's problem as well. So we just talk too short.
So yeah, I can give you the mic.
Thank you, sir. That's it. Viva. Thank you. I'll catch him on the radio.
Yeah.
All right, if you don't mind, if we could just start with former Senator Casper. Please, good evening, Senator.
Good evening, thank you very much. By the way, my first term I ended up in second place also.
That was a good company.
I lasted 10 years and then I decided it was enough. Thank you very much for all you senators for coming to Datadale. It's kind of unusual. We haven't seen this in a long time, and it's appreciated, as I'm sure you can tell from the questions and comments. I was trying to figure out where to start, and I guess I have to say that we can keep taking a bath, but sooner, we can keep changing clothes, but sooner or later we're going to have to take a bath. I've only been in David over 50 years, and I also have seen a lot of change. 50 years ago, the now late Dick Tennyson wrote this article, "The Need for Local Control in Public Education." Let's just think about our history. The Spanish came in, and they took control of the island, started to charge land rent. You had to pay property tax. People didn't have money, so they lost the land. So we have a lot of land trust land in northern Datadale because they lost their land. That was one Spanish leader running the island who wasn't from here. Then the Americans took over. The same structure. The governor of Guam was from off island. In fact, I recall one of our typhoons, our stateside governor, took off for Texas and left Lieutenant Governor Guerrero take over because it was too dangerous here when the governor was here. Then, hooray, we elected our own local governor, but we kept the same structure that's outdated and doesn't work. Now we have a leader, the same as the Spanish had, one on the top, the Americans, one on the top, and we have the governor on the top. That doesn't work. 50 years ago, Dick Tennyson said the school system has to be decentralized to work. We're hearing about all the problems in the schools. We at the village level where the schools are don't feel any responsibility because you guys and the governor have to take care of it. That's the system we have. If any of you, which you have lived or stayed in the States, you have a school problem, you don't go to the governor of the state. You have your local school board. That's what Dick Tennyson talked about. Here's a little book, Reinventing Government, which is quite a few years old. And they said, well, there's many nice passages in here. 50 years ago, centralized institutions were indispensable, but they don't work anymore. I'm ashamed if friends and family come to Guam to bring them out here. Today they don't know. In fact, I've counted 37 cars just from my house to where I get my hair cut on Marine Drive up at Woostic Road. Or up at the Woostic Road at the stoplight. 37 abandoned cars just on that little strip. When I drive on the road, I think I see fewer cars that have up-to-date license plates. Cars aren't registered because they can't qualify to register, so they don't. And you folks are so busy, you're so short of staff. The only time we see you is when you're racing somewhere to solve an issue rather than roaming around trying to find out what's wrong. We have security fences and everything. They climbed over the fence at night and stole our solar lights with all of our fences are out. We go to the stores, the graffiti's so bad, Someone suggested that maybe if somebody would put the governor's name or senator's name into graffiti on this buildings, maybe they'd get painted. Many places you have to get your graffiti off of the building, you have to pay for it. It's a shame to drive down Memphis Street by the gas station there, the stores, all that graffiti, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And so, I think we can continue to put powder on, but sooner or later we got to take a bath. We need to make some major structural changes, because you can pick up cars and pick up cars, and there'll be plenty more to pick up. It's not going to go away. The graffiti's not going to go away if we don't require something about it. And I think that's all the other specific concerns, Mr. Lustig's concern and so on. I suspect he can't even raise all the corn he wants anymore because they come and steal it. I guess that's my point, and I'd be happy to share some of this with you individually. I want to thank you for coming up. I know other people are here to chat also, but and I don't quite understand. I think the last time the schools were refurbished and worked on was when I was the senator chairing education and Governor Gutierrez was the governor. Different parties, but we were able to work together, and we came up with, I think it was all the federal funding, and we remodeled 37 schools, I think it was, and that's the last time it was done. Which gets back also to local control of our school system. We have a board of education, my goodness. That's maybe the state board, but you need local school boards, districts. I passed the legislation, as you may remember. You may remember, Senator Twine. But the Lake Lorraine Elson and some of them killed it because they took it as a negative. But it was trying to bring more local control to the school system. And the teachers and the administrators and the parents liked it very, very much. Very much. So we can, again, keep putting on the powder, but unless we take a bath, we're going to see the same. And of course, the good gentleman who has returned to Guam after being gone a long time, our population structure is totally different now. 50 years ago, that's only a few Filipinos had come in. And the Micronesians had to come in as students and go back home. So it's a whole different ballgame, and the same thing, I'm sure, if you go to the States, which I don't do, but they're experiencing the same with the southern border open. We're right in tune with the U.S., with the borders open, and everybody coming in is going to change more. And so and back 50 years ago over by our area, and it's not NCS, it's Gugalgan and Toguac, and it's Tumbo. As Tumbo. Tun Ramon's place. As Tumbo, not as Tumbo. And it's not Finneganchen. Finneganchen on the map is over by McDonald's restaurant. So if we don't start taking back some of these things and making it work locally, and at that time, our village group met, and it was secure, but now it's different. So I'd say work on the structures. Mr. Jusmasi, thank you for coming. Haven't seen you folks out here for a long time, and hope it happens again. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Address it to these.
Thank you, Senator Kaspar. I am going to take a shower tonight, for sure. But I agree with you about local control, right? And I think you see it, and no offense to the north, but especially down south where, like for example in Inland, there's that sense of ownership. with the schools. You know, I attended a accreditation meeting with some off-island people, and they were just impressed at just the level of, again, ownership that the local village has over the schools. You know, a lot of these issues that we're seeing in the central and in the north, they're not necessarily seeing it at some of the southern schools. The smaller, more manageable ones. But you're right, we do have to get our villages more invested in the schools. And I think that's really key, right? They have to be proud of the village schools, and I know that a lot of people are. But you're absolutely right when we talk about site-based management, right? Where you get the administrators, the teachers, staff at these certain schools in the villages to take ownership of the schools. I mean, it sounds like it would totally work, but then they're getting the pushback from the administration of GDOE, for example, who they have an interest in maintaining and controlling that power, where it's gotten so bad. We talk to the principals, and they absolutely 1,000% want to do site-based management, but then they get, talked to by downtown, and they change their tune when it comes time to come down to the legislature. So, I agree. I think so many of the things that made our island different in the past was because our villages were invested. You had village sports leagues, you had parks and recreation, right? You had after-school programs at the community centers, which were alive with, kids coming to play, ping pong, basketball, so these things I remember from when I was young. We don't offer our people anymore, and it's doesn't make sense to me because we're at a government now that has $1 billion budget, yet most of the services from public safety to education to healthcare are just so decrepit, and I mean, in some cases, non-existent. I mean, look at this. We're spending more money than we have ever spent, and I'm sure, it's a different island, but our return on investment is not what I think it should be. So I totally agree. I think that we have to look at local control, true local control, especially in the villages. I mean, if you look at, for example, a village like Derrida, you got people like yourself with all your institutional knowledge. You have so many business people who live here that, we could go. I think we need to go back to the basics where, okay, we're going to adopt a school. Let's really adopt it and not just, put a sign up that says so-and-so's adopting this school. And let's take it back to the villages. So thank you for your insight.
So would you consider writing legislation that if there's graffiti on your building, you have to get it off within so many days or you get fined?
I like that idea, yeah.
Because no South is going to take it off.
You're right, yeah. And we'll also get the lieutenant governor, right? Because traditionally they handle beautification. And I mean, take a look around, we could definitely use more beautification.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So if I can just add to the good senator's comment with the schools, and the Guam Police Department is invested with the partnering with the Department of Education with a lot of our youth initiative. And Pierre had mentioned the broken window effect, and we understand the ripple effect with youth delinquency within our community. And of course, working closely with the schools and providing a platform. The Guam Police Department started a youth initiative under Project Youth. Right now we have 6 schools, 2 in the northern, 1 at UP, 1 at Weddingale. We have over 500 kids under our junior police cadet program where we're really instilling behavior modifiers and critical thinking so that the kids that graduate into middle schools, they become better stewards. And our program doesn't stop at the elementary level. We continue towards the middle and the high school with our Project U, and our overall goal is working with the Department of Education and our nonprofit partners in implementing a peer mentorship program with the students so that we can help change the trajectory of where we're seeing all these delinquent juvenile behaviors. So it's one of the many things GPD is working closely with the community alongside with the mayor. She's partnering with us with our prevention to education, but you're absolutely correct. And Frenchie had highlighted that broken window effect. If a community, we don't fix the window and we don't address the small issues, it's going to become a bigger issue. And it's something in which we understand, and this is why we lean heavily with the Neighborhood Watch program. I know before I came here, I was at the park that we want to work with the mayor, and we saw a lot of the good activity, people playing basketball, people walking, and people playing baseball. So this is one of the things in which we're trying to interact with our community-oriented policing, but we are working with DOE. We've been working with them, I think, for the past 2 school years, and we're starting to see a lot of the great things coming out of there. We actually implemented a pilot program with a criminal justice pathway at Teason High School. So GPD is really trying to help the kids become better critical thinkers, because we're starting to see that if we don't change the trajectory of where they're going, it's only going to add more to the issues in which we're going to have to really beef up our efforts with the Guam Police Department. But prevention is our key, and we're aiming at prevention through education and youth mentoring. So.
Mr. Amaguin. Thank you, Senator.
Yes. Half a day, ladies and gentlemen. Senator Barnett, Senator Perez, Speaker, and Senator Paul. It's the first time that I actually going to speak in front of the senators outside the Guam Congress building, which is, I'm glad that you guys bring this up. Because people like me, shy person like me, not going to be in YouTube right away. I'll be able to actually speak my mind, right? And especially I'm retired. But first off, so I say thank you to Paul for filling all those questions that I just wish that some of the command staff will back you up and be there to sit and show exactly what they can do to address this issue, not just a sergeant. But you're doing an awesome job, keep up the good job, and I'm calling the command staff to come out and support you. Because if I'm still there, I'll be there right next to you. Okay? One other thing too, I'm not here, I'm retired, right? But just to let you guys know that the Guam Police Department is the only department that has an enabling act that actually under Title 10, Chapter 77, 71, 133, I believe, reporting police officers, violations, and all that. Because of this mindset in the Guam community, in our community, that a lot of corrupted police officers, but this law actually mandates any employees for the Guam Police Department is reported to them by the citizens of any alleged crime or misconduct with the police officers or the civil employees of the department. The person that's receiving this complaint, they have 48 hours to report it to the chief of police. Failure to do so, it's 1 year imprisonment or $1,000 fine or both. So there's no such thing as a code of silence for the Guam Police Department. We are mandated by law, and we are the only agency, I believe, and this should be applicable to everybody. To all the law enforcement agencies that receive the 40%, the 18%, whatever percentage that they may have. Because, they always say the Guam Police Department is the premier Guam Police Department, the law enforcement agency in Guam. But when it comes to pay raises, ladies and gentlemen, it seems like everybody's the same. It seems like the 40%, I testify to that. And you know what? Pay raises should not be discussed during election year. Because right decisions are going to be made. It's just going to be how we're going to be able to attract more votes. And we shouldn't have that mindset about the next election. We should have that mindset about how we're going to be able to serve the public. It's like me retiring from the Guam Police Department. I called one of my colleagues one time, just a couple of days ago. And I said, no, we need more raise. I said, whoa, reason why I resigned or retired? Because I feel bad because I was making more money, way more money than the civil workers that I was working with. Imagine I was making $47 an hour as a lieutenant, plus 10%, plus 15%. I'm making more than probably the governor of Guam. So I always tell the guys when I went out for the promotion, it's not about the money that I served this island. It's my heart into serving this island. That was my calling. I served 31 years, and I will continue to support the Guam Police Department even as a retiree. And I just want to say that as a staff assistant to the chief of police, when people comes up and say, I asked them if they want to join the police department, I said, yes, I believe you have the heart to be in the police department. If they say no, I said, we don't need you. We need somebody that has the heart, has the intestinal fortitude to be a police officer. Because without that heart, without that intestinal fortitude, a split second will cost the lives of the community for the lives of our fellow police officers. So it's not about the heart. I mean, it is all about the heart. And I also asked them, is it about the pay? A lot of them say, no, I want to serve. When I testified for the 40%, I told the senators in front of me that people that was at the public hearing room, those are the dedicated officers that are still here, no matter how much they get paid. Because their heart is into serving this island. No matter what, it's not about the money, it's about serving our people. I retired making that much money because I feel bad. Because I know government is not going to be able to afford all these pay raises. Another year or two, when the federal funds is exhausted, and when tourism is not going to rebound, reality is going to kick in, where some of these guys say, oh, I'm going to get off the government because I'm not getting paid enough. Guess what? I always tell my guys before, if you don't like your job, get the hell out, because other people are willing to take your job. So, besides that, good job to the police department, even though that you guys are short, and I know a lot of people are asking why they're short. The little precinct itself, it requires the 17 areas and the little precinct. It requires 7 people to patrol those beat areas, including GIGO. 1 supervisor and 1 desk watch officer. Yes, there's only 1 desk watch that's answered those phones. Sometimes you get inundated with the calls. So all of this, the stress level that the desk watch has to go through, receive the calls, they give it to the supervisor make a determination on how these calls are going to be responded to. So all of this, we also we have guidelines in the Guam Police Department, the enabling act, as I said, and also top off the internal affairs policy that we have, that I'm quite sure still exists because I just retired last year, that you can file any type of complaint, can go to any precinct, because there's a form that you can fill up and fill out the complaints. You don't have to go to the chief's office, the internal affairs office. They used to be under my purview when I was assistant chief. You can't just go to the any precinct. There's a form that's in the GO, because I scanned those GOs, about 1,400 pages of those. Because I got tired of going to the hard copies. So now it's accessible to our guys. So with that, I know that the Guam Police Department does not have a home. I've been always asking about the headquarters. There's something that I said about it's been sitting in somebody's shelves for almost 2005. Actually, there's a guidelines of exactly how are we going to build the headquarters. And that headquarters is built, since if you're going to start from scratch, right, probably you can put it in the impound lot. Because of the most heated discussions that's in tonight is about abandoned vehicles. The abandoned vehicles under the Title 16, on this 3606 Alpha, if I'm not mistaken, that any peace officers can actually impound the vehicle to police impound lot, right? But we don't have one. Or any private businesses. But I'm not sure if the private businesses are actually doing that. The second process to that is whoever's reporting it, the mayor, whoever's the peace officers, they have, within 5 days, they have to tell revenue tax regarding that abandoned vehicle. Within 10 days, the revenue tax is supposed to send them a certified letter. And they have to wait within 10 days. If they don't respond within 10 days, there's another process that they're supposed to do an auction to sell those vehicles. That's not being done. A lot of our statutes are been passed, has been overlooked. A good example is that building those headquarters. And also in our Enabling Act, it states right there that will answer, and then somewhere in that Enabling Act, Chapter 77, Title 10, that a governor will identify, when the chief of police can identify a land, a public land, okay, with approval of the governor for the storage of vehicles or the buildings or headquarters. So everything is in that law. So it's just a matter of going back and actually giving homes for the Guam Police Department in that regard. If you guys are probably going to share there's guidance, information and guidance coming from the former Deputy Attorney General Carlos Spalding. I'll probably send it to you guys regarding removal of abandoned vehicles, junk vehicles to public property. It states here, I'm not going to read the whole thing. One thing I'm having a hard time reading. I don't think the people by me will be able to understand what I'm reading. But I probably can, I'm not sure if you guys have a copy of this. This is one of the things regarding the abandoned vehicles. So ladies and gentlemen, regarding the abandoned vehicles, it's not just the officers responding, right, and getting impounded. I mean, there's a process they have to go through. It's not just one police department. All police officers are supposed to be part of that. The last person is actually Department of Revenue Tax. So if you're going to make use of that, whatever this is in that law, probably you can make some money out of it through the auction process. But I'm not sure it's going to go. So another thing, alcohol-free zone that was brought up. All parks are supposed to be identified as alcohol-free zone according to the law, right? But guess who was supposed to identify those? The Director of Parks and Recs. Supposed to have the signage. Chop shop. Identify the chop shop. I think I know what chop shop you guys are talking about. Please, if anybody in this room or anybody that you know that there's a chop shop someplace, give us a call. Because if you're just going to put a blind eye on those illegal activities, it's not just a violation, it's a crime, right? They stole somebody's property. A lot of people are probably waiting for the properties to be recovered. And I think I know what they're talking about. That's the one by Batulo Road, where you see all kinds of vehicles just parked on the side of the road. And brand new vehicles on the side. First thing that came to my mind, oh man, somebody's making money chopping those vehicles. So if you guys will report it, and one police department will respond to it, probably, if it's not too late, they'll be able to recover some of the stolen vehicles. But the problem with the stolen vehicles, if it's already been chopped up, the only thing that the police department can do is call the insurance company. The insurance company will either recover that, because it's been reported, or yeah. Other than that, thank you for this opportunity. I just want to piggyback on what my wife said about the $195. It is really a stressing matter that you have to go through when people are threatening you to actually putting you in this collection. And people that, can you imagine if a person is sitting at GMH or GRMC for 30, 40 days trying to fight for their lives, and their names are in collection, and all of a sudden their house are being part of that collection? That's not fair. And for somebody to actually, I'm quite sure that we have a lot of dog snatcher scholars in Government, right? Public administration, and probably a lot of college students that be able to do the collection. Why are we hiring people from off island to do those collections? And why my wife, at that time I don't want to interfere because I was still a staff assistant to the chief. I told her call the chief of a fire department. It's not GMH, it was a fire department. And I think I know what he's talking about these contracts. But it's not fair for the people to be placing that burden when they already have a lot of headaches with their accidents, medical bills that they have to go through for a mere $195 that will be placed for collection. They will affect the credits, and there's one with this affect the credits. Be able to get loans, right? And there's people, the creditors will take you to court. And there's a lot of hassle, attorney's fees and all that. So please, if you guys can take a look at it and see what you guys what we can do to help our people for that mere $195. Have somebody do the collection. We have a lot of people probably Department of Administration or Revenue Tax to do this job, or teach somebody how to do collection. Probably, if I'm there, teach me how to do it, I'll do it for you. And you have to hire somebody from off island and harass some people out here. So that's the only thing I want to say. And public, my fellow community, just please support. I thank you guys for supporting the Guam Police Department for being the force multipliers, being part of the Labor Watch program. And I know the public's probably saying, well, why are they depending on us? But I know our Guam Police Department cannot be in all places at all times. That's why we appreciate the help of the public. And if you see something, hear something, report it first to the nearest precinct, and then report it to the Labor Watch chat group. 911, only emergency, please. Do not call 911 for regular crimes that have been committed or completed crimes. Because the Guam Fire Department is also busy answering those calls. 911 is being monitored by the Guam Fire Department, and then they screen those calls, and then what they do is they connect it to our dispatch. And our dispatch will connect it straight to the precincts. So there's a process that they have to go through. Thank you, and so take the time. My former colleague here has something to say.
Thank you for your service, sir, Lieutenant, and for your continuing to help the police department and the community.
That's still my dream, to have headquarters in the Guam Police Department.
It's always been.
I'm quite sure, ma'am, you have heard me every time I testify. Even those that are related to the bill that was testified for, I always bring out the headquarters. I just found out about the law.
Were you there when there was a property in Jigo that we were, was being transferred from Chamorro Land Trust to the police department?
That's the evidence control section there?
Evidence control.
Yeah, evidence, and so they asked at the time, can we use this to build the headquarters there, together with evidence control, and then they were talking about an impound lot in the back of it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Different things, so I know that they discussed it, and I think they're trying to get funding from GURA at the time, right? And that was, it's like the GURA priorities, we have to, I know they got that's in 100% bill.
The law amendment, I think, is actually...
Yeah,
does
bond
really-
financing.
Yeah, go to VITA and all that, so...
Yes.
But, the governor did actually brought up to my attention about when I was still GPD, because the headquarters were brought up several times to form a committee. So I know I spoke to somebody today that they said they're going to work on it, and I think it's going to be included in the new, it's going to be included with GMH or something to that effect.
Oh, really? I never heard that part, but I'm sure land is available. There is land for this. I think there should be funding for this. We should check the priorities for GURA for the year to see if this can be prioritized. Yeah.
No, I think I did ask GURA already, and they said that it has to be
Precinct.
a block project. So headquarters are one of them.
Not going to do
Yes, ma'am, I did ask. But I'm already talking to some people at Central Barnett, and hopefully just revive the dust off the dust from that law, and I think we can do something about it.
So you believe headquarters is more of a priority than another precinct?
The precinct can be handled by GURA. Right? So I thought the Eastern precinct is going to be built, and I believe GIGO precinct is under proposal. And the last time I was there, they're working with GURA.
Eastern precinct is being introduced in Talafufo right now. So I think they
Talafufo, that one's done. Yeah, I mean, it was ready.
it's
Right?
ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
It's a work in progress, but can you imagine the government won't be able to save money from all those leases. The lease for ITC, Hakubutan, the one at Nambola Road. Money that probably the same investment that GTOA has done. They build their headquarters. As a matter of fact, every year is budgeted to pay for those buildings, right? The gym, the warehouse, the headquarters that they have in Tijan, right? Yeah, that's part. I'm not sure this included in the budget for GTOA, but it's already it's being paid. And as a matter of fact, the last two budget bill that you guys have, it was a $5 million allotted for the development of a DOC. Right, ma'am?
yes.
And there's at one point also $5 million for the Guam Medical Center.
35 million a year. Yeah.
The That's almost the budget for GPD, man.
Yeah.
GPD's budget this year is $99 million. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just wish good luck to everybody. God bless Guam, and hopefully we'll be able to overcome the obstacles that's looming in our horizon about tourism not being able to rebound and the federal funds running out.
Thank you so much for your testimony, sir. Mr. Metabusen. You're the last one.
Save the best for last.
Take your time.
Does it need a mic?
You need a microphone, sir, if you don't mind. Thank you.
I'm KP Metabusen. I moved over from Chalapago to Dededo, but I'm originally from Dededo, but I lived out there in Chalapago for a spell. Recently returned from Brazil after a couple of years out there. I seen that, and we're not too bad here in Guam, but our issues, it's not just you guys, it's the people. We need to educate them, man, and help them out, and public awareness, let them understand that it's not just a certain individual's job to clean up the parks. It's everybody's job to clean up the parks. I took my daughter there and I was embarrassed, man. Taragi Beach. Tengisan Beach. Taragi Beach is beautiful. Tengisan Beach. We got down there, we picked up trash. My daughter asked me, why we gonna have to pick up trash? Because this is our island. I'm trying to train her that way. Now, if everybody just tells their kids, hey, clean up after yourself. Pack your stuff when you leave, hold it up. It's very frustrating. We got a jump up there at the top of Valley Heights Hill. I want to go up there and I want to clean up that area, but I have my own road going in Aracao. It's being neglected. The road, the bush is starting to come in. I go out there and I get it done myself because I live in there. And I'm trying to show the neighborhood, we gotta do this together. I got some folks that come out with me and we bush cut, we pick up trash. That's our area. Let's try and keep it clean. And I find out that people that work for the mayor's office, not just here, there, and everywhere, the people that work there are telling them that they're pulling the cars on the main roads first before they get to the houses. So now what do you think everybody's going to do? They're going to pull their cars out to the main road so they can get all those cars taken away. I don't blame them. It's a lot, and it has to do with our community. If we start, like, you got kids, talk to your kids. Help them out, talk to them, know them. Maybe we won't have all the vandalism and have all these mischief going on out there. And I see it, and I'm very passionate about it because I care about my island. And I know everybody here does. But it's not just you guys. You guys are doing a good job, but there's a lot of room for improvement. Even with me, I can improve on myself. There's a lot of room for improvement. We need to work together. Sorry, I'm a little, I just feel frustrated when everybody wants something and they don't want to put up. They have their hand out like this. We need to help each other out and keep our island clean, beautiful. Take pride in our island. Say something. You see something, say something. Take care of business. I'm not saying go out there and be Superman or John Wayne and get in trouble and go to jail. I'm saying coal. All these dump sites are public parks. I know the park rangers, the park rangers need help. Maybe if we have more funding for them, they can go out there and patrol and monitor the folks that are out there using these parks. And communicate with them, get their name, whatever they leave, you know who to look for. We can't do these things. We need to work together. Like I said, you guys are doing good. There's room for improvement. And thank you for addressing a lot of issues. You're a new senator. I hope you continue doing what you're doing. All of you. But there's room for improvement. I see you, and I appreciate you. You're my cycle mate. I know where you're from. No, you're good. You're good. I mean, you take care of the kids. Not that way. I know where you're from, right? No, what I mean is, I see what you do for the community, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, if we all want to get involved, we can. We just gotta do it. And I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for this because what I'm saying, it's not just you guys' job to do it. It's our job. We need to talk to our kids. We need to know where they're at. You don't know where your kids, then you're wrong. You shouldn't be having any kids if you can't control your kids. For real. I see people out there panhandling in front of McDonald's, and there's a big sign there that says, "Now hiring." I went up to the guy and said, "Hey man, do you need help filling out the application? Maybe I can help you out." No, he wants to sit there on the side of the road and get what he can. I don't know. But at least I tried. All I'm saying is just try it. Try it out, help out, see what you can do. Get in where you fit in. Just continue doing what you're doing in education. I mean, I heard there's word that you guys are looking at Dovea to try and get back into the public school system. Is that correct?
The congressman was discussing that.
Okay, well, that's madness if you ask me, because we need to take care of what we got now before we have others come in. It's going to make matters worse. We're going to need more buses and all that. I know everybody wants that federal money. Yeah, it's all about the money, pretty much. But we need to take care of what we got now, and I appreciate what you're doing. Like I said, there's room for improvement, and that's all I got to say about that. It's not just you guys' job. It's our job too, as a community. We got to look out for each other. And a lot of people fail to see that. And that's what's irritating me. Every time I go up Nighty Heights Hill, even halfway down that top there, man, it's frustrating seeing these things, man. And then these junk cars, they weren't all back there in back road. They all popped up. Now there's like 20. That's because somebody's telling everybody, pull it out to the main road. I see that they're working along the road now, up around, they're pushing back the wood line from the main road, and I appreciate that. Because, the kids are having a hard time walking, and I'd rather have them walk on the side of the road than on the road. But it is what it is, and we have to deal with it, but somebody's going to get hurt real bad, get run over. All I'm asking is everybody gets in where they fit, get in where you fit in. That's all you got to do. Get in where you fit in. It's frustrating seeing these dumps, hearing about the schools. Those are my two main things. Because I got a daughter. She's 9 years old. Yeah, I'm an old guy for a little girl. But I'm trying to take her to all these places that I did when I was a kid. And it's not the same anymore, and I'm trying to train her, you know. And I just wish other people are passionate enough or care enough to do the same. I'm not saying I'm a perfect dad, but I'm trying to teach her to clean up after your mess if you're going to go out in public, you know? Don't think, man. I just want to tell the public, keep your trash, dispose of it properly, and I'm taking this time to do it now. Keep your trash where it belongs. That's all I'm asking. This illegal dumping, man, is irritating. I can't. It's embarrassing as well. I have people coming in from Up Island, they see this. I went to Saipan like a couple of months back. Saipan looked like they got it together there. I mean, yeah, let's say it together. They got it together there. So maintain their sides of the road and all that. I know they're a small island, but everybody takes pride in what they do. And that's what we need to do. We're forgetting. And we're blaming. I know you're blaming the public that we're pushing you guys too far. And we're saying, yeah, you know, back and forth. It's going to keep going back and forth. All I'm saying is there's room for improvement. Everybody can try and do a little better than what they're doing without hurting anybody. And if there's feelings that were hurt, then maybe they have to go to church. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that.
This is Marcy, Officer Manabusan, right? Manabusan, no.
Former.
I agree with you, and you're right. And there's huge room for improvement, all of us, for sure. But thank you for teaching your daughter that, and I agree, and I think it's related to what Senator Casper Bauer said. It's like, and a lot of you, it's like on a local basis. The more local we can make it, the more we can get that feeling back, right? And that community, well, let's do this together, and we can actually get it done and break it down a little bit more. We try to do it on these scales of economy, right, where we'll do it island-wide because it'll save us money, you know, one contract, but it just doesn't seem to be working to me. I agree with you, and if we could get it on a more local basis, we're going to get people to care more, and then people to be there more. For example, in those places where Tankisan, right, all our parks, I live in Jonyang. I love to go to Gotchang, but now I won't even go. It's not that safe. It's always every single day trash, and I just feel bad, and I can't stand to see it, right? I mean, we try to clean it, but it's like a lot, and I don't, and it's so I think, yeah, our communities have to, on a smaller basis, just really get the resources there, just like in the schools, on a site basis. I agree with that. I think all the parents agree with that. The principals agree with that. Unfortunately, you wouldn't believe that last term one of the senators tried to do that, and when it came time for the hearing, everybody changed their mind. They wouldn't testify to that. It's at least, you know, the principals at the time, and I think they were intimidated. I don't know, but it's so there are things that we have to handle on a big scale, you know. Building buildings, maybe, you know, we need to get bonds for the police department, those types of things, of course. But yeah, what you're describing, I agree with you. That's, I'm sure, that's a whole theory behind neighborhood watch, neighborhood everything, neighborhood parks, right? Neighborhood. But Cesar Masi, I really appreciate your sentiments.
It comes down to funding.
Not always, no.
But everybody's forgetting that it's I mean, you know, it starts
Absolutely.
at home, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Clean up after yourselves.
Yeah.
That's
It
all
just
I'm
must.
saying.
And thank you so much, Mr. Manabusan, as well. And I, you know, as a former teacher, I think it's really about education, right? We have to educate our people, and I do know people like in their adult age, they don't learn the values of picking up after themselves, and it just takes someone close to them to really kind of teach them that. So, again, I think, we need to, like you said, do more. There's more that can be done. But again, we need everybody's help. We can't do this by ourselves, right? And just thank you for being here. And let's just continue spreading the word at this point. And, as you're talking, I'm trying to think of solutions. So, definitely we'll get back to you on all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Barris. Mr. Matabusin, I think when we talk about looking for solutions, you are one of the solutions. I ran for office because I just couldn't stand how much our island has changed. When I talk to my kids about how things used to be, they don't believe me. They can't imagine that, how our island used to be. We sleep with the door open, You go to the village basketball court, you see people playing basketball, the park's clean. You go to the school, you go to the school, you got the school things going on. But it takes people like you to want to make that difference, right? To stand up and to do things like teach your daughter. It takes people like the people that we have here today. And don't give up hope. It's frustrating. It is. And when I got in here, I thought, wow, what am I even going to do?
Just do what you're doing.
That's what I'm saying, is we just got to keep doing what we're doing, and we got to quit talking about the schools and just do something drastic to make us fix the schools. Same thing with public safety. We just got to quit talking about it and find those solutions. But it's not always about the money. It's about also our mindset, right? Our mindset as a people, just because there's so many different factors, has really changed for a lot of people. A lot of people are just too busy trying to make ends meet to really focus on the things that are very important, that are right in front of them, like our families and our people, right? And so I'm just, every time you feel frustrated, or you feel like, giving up, or you feel like, no one cares, or you feel like, how am I even going to change anything? You meet people like yourself, you meet people like all the people who came up here to take a chance and to speak out, and to share how they feel, so that, someone like us can listen and try and make those improvements, because you're right. We're always, I look in the mirror every day, how can I do better? How can we improve, the education? How can we improve public safety? How can we improve the villages for our kids? And I'm trying to teach my kids too, because they don't believe me, right? And so I want to show them, like you, the right way, the way that there's so much that we can learn from the past and apply it to where we're going in the future. So I thank you so much for bush cutting, for, noticing these things, and for, coming in and sharing your thoughts. It's always important. Your message definitely hit home, so it's just awesome. And thank you, Mr. Manabusa. Thank you to everybody who testified today. Senator Castro, you're right, it has been a while since the people senators have been out to see the people, but this is just the first of many. I think that our people want to be heard. I think it's obvious, right? And it's the first one. They just want to be listened to. They just want leaders who are going to come out here and take time to listen to you, whether it's about the neighbor blasting the music, or the stray dog biting somebody, or people drinking at the park at 2 a.m. All the problems are important, from small to big, and we're here to listen and go back to the office and work on those solutions, which sometimes is about money, but a lot of times the solution doesn't require a bill, doesn't require a public hearing, doesn't require a roundtable or an oversight. It just requires more people like us to want to change things. And I think that, we're right on the edge of losing everything that makes our island what it is. We're so close to losing it, but when I see people like us who are just inspired to stop that loss and to start going back to what made our island great again, to me that's what's very inspiring, and that's what keeps me going every day. So I want to thank Mayor Savars, Vice Mayor Daigle, and the mayor's staff here, Shawnee, of course John Savars. I want to thank our audiovisual team, that have taken time away from their families to come out and scream this out to the people, And I want to thank my staff too. I know they probably want to kill me right now, because we had a special education roundtable till 11 p.m. last night, and they thought they were going to relax today, but here we are again. So thank you guys. I got the best staff in the world. To my colleagues, I mean, these are my girls right here. And I mean, I'm more like their boy, you know. Like, I believe in my colleagues, the Speaker Tulai, Senator Perez. I think they're doing amazing work. I fully stand, you know, right behind them. Where are you guys going? And right behind you, I'll follow. So thank you guys for coming out, taking time out. I know you could be with your families, but again, I just want to thank you, Mr. Matabusa, and everybody. Just keep standing up, keep speaking out. We're hearing you, okay? So on behalf of the Committee on Public Safety, Education, and the Arts, I now conclude this Voices of the Village Community Caucus. We'll be in Inalahan next Friday at the Inalahan Community Center. Come down. I heard they're going to roast a pig. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. So thank you again, people of Guam, for watching this live stream. Guausi Senator Chris, está. Adios!